Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range to talk about a Sig rifle that's actually in 308, not 5.56 like the rifle you see here, which is a PE90. It's a very interesting rifle. There's a few videos out there about it, but we'll get into that here in a moment. If you guys enjoy the content that we produce here at the Military Arms Channel, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe and to hit that notification bell. It helps us out tremendously here at the channel, and a surprisingly small number of you guys watch our videos actually subscribe to the channel. So if you take a moment, click that subscription button, we'd greatly appreciate it. Also, please comment down below. Helps us with the algorithms, and we love reading those comments. With that being said, let's get started today talking about the PE90 and the SG-751. We'd like to thank our friends over at Primary Arms for helping to make today's video possible. If you have not checked out Primary Arms before, please swing by and check them out at primaryarms.com. They have lots of great products, great prices, and they've maintained a pretty good inventory even throughout this entire craziness. So with all that being said, what I have in my hands is what most people know as a 550, SG-550, or a PE90. This rifle went into Swiss military service around 1990. And it's a pretty famous rifle. A lot of people know what this rifle is simply by looking at it in the firearms community. A lot of folks love this rifle, and with good reason. It's a hybrid. It borrows from a number of different designs. It's a long stroke gas piston rifle with the recoil spring up around the piston. And it's got a bolt in it very similar to what we'd see in the AK or AKM. And then it has some of its own design nuances as well that makes it truly Swiss and a very unique and fun rifle to shoot. Very soft shooting, chambered in 5.56, has a side folding stock and green furniture, kind of a gray finish, painted on finish to the receiver, and just a really, really fun shooting rifle. Well, a lot of folks aren't happy with the 5.56. Now, the United States has been at war for 20 years, and we've even started to look past the 5.56 to new calibers, bringing back old calibers like the 308, looking at new calibers like the 6.5 Creedmoor for precision shooting and for DMRs, or designated marksman's rifles. And that's where the SG-751 comes in. It's heavily based on the PE90 or the SG-550, but it chambers 7.62 by 51 NATO, and we like to call that 308 here in the United States. So let's take a look at this 751 and talk about it, do some shooting with it, and give you guys kind of an overall feel for this really interesting firearm. This is the SG-751. It's the 30 caliber version of the PE90. Overall, the gun is roughly about the same size as the 5.56 model, which is a pretty interesting feat of engineering. Let's go over some of the features of the gun, starting off with the buttstock and work our way towards the muzzle end. So here on the rear of the rifle, we have a standard Sig 550 stock. It's identical. This one just happens to be black versus green, but it folds to the side, has a stud here on the receiver by the ejection port that it'll snap over, so it'll stay in the folded position. Just give it a yank and it will go back to the extended position. And this is the lock button right here by my index finger. So you just push that in and then fold. Moving forward, we have a pistol grip with a storage compartment. In the pistol grip itself, you can actually take this cover off by just pushing down and pulling rearward to access the storage compartment. Also on the cover of the pistol grip, there's a little white piece of paper. Now, I suspect this is part of Swiss tradition. If you've ever purchased a K31 straight pull bolt action rifle, for example, if you take the butt plate off of it, oftentimes you'll find a white piece of paper with the soldier's name written on it underneath that buttstock plate. This looks like the same type of white piece of paper, but it's housed in the pistol grip, so I presume that's what that's for. Let's go down the right-hand side of the rifle. We already talked about the stud the stock locks onto in the folded position. Back here, we have the selector lever, which is ambi. It appears on both sides. Just above that, we have basically a claw-type sling system. So we have these loops on both sides of the gun back here, so you can just hook a clip on it and it will attach to the rear. And in the front, we have one on the left-hand side of the gas block. We have ambi fire controls, which are present on both sides of the firearm. Over here, we have a rubber-coated, hard rubber-coated charging handle. And so back here, it's kind of sealed up. They have rubber that also covers the traveling area for the charging handle, which does reciprocate during firing. When the gun runs empty, it will lock open just like its 5.56 counterpart. It does have that 20-round proprietary polymer magazine. It's kind of smoke, translucent, and it's a rock and lock, so you put the toe in first and then rock it back, and then it has an AK style release right there. The trigger guard just pushes out of the way for a winter trigger, and it can be pushed either way. To drop the bolt on the gun, you have a bolt release bolt hold right here. So down is locked, push up, and that drops the bolt. Over here you can see that ambi selector lever, and then also the sling mount. Moving forward, we have black polymer handguards that cover up the gas tube and the barrel. Moving out front, we do have a front sight that folds, and I'll point out the rear sight here in a moment. So it's an unprotected blade that folds, which is adjustable for windage. And it's truly a backup sight. In the rear, we have a backup sight that also folds down into the pick rail, and this one has a little screw on it with a slider for the aperture, which you can slide a little piece of sheet metal up and down to adjust it. Truly backup sights. It's intended to be ran with an optic. Out here on the front, we have a 4-position adjustable gas regulator. We have regular gas settings, which is 1.4. We have adverse gas settings, which is marked as 1.6. We have a suppressor setting on the other side, which is marked 1.0. And then we have a gas shutoff, which shuts the gas off to the rifle, thus making it a manually operated firearm. And here is that loop over here for the sling. Underneath the gas block here, it doesn't have a bayonet lug in there, but you can put a bayonet lug in there, drive a pin through, and it would have the bayonet lug on the gas block. Now you'll notice that the barrel on this rifle is very heavy duty, so it has a heavier than normal profile, and on the end of that we have a standard birdcage type flash suppressor. Shooting the 751 is not like shooting the PE90 or the 550. It has a very pronounced recoil impulse even at its regular gas setting, not on the adverse setting. But it's totally manageable. I've fired G3s and M14s on full auto, and I can only imagine what this would be like on full auto. With a little bit of practice, it would be controllable. Speaking of full auto, of course, all we can have is semi-automatics in the United States. No new machine guns can be made after 1986. Thanks NRA and President Reagan for that one. So this gun has just safe and semi. But the military versions of this rifle, with either the 14.75-inch barrel or even with the 60-inch barrel, can be made available with a 4-position selector lever. So you have safe, semi, 3-round burst, and then full auto. So that selector lever will move quite a bit between those 4 settings. All right, so shooting the gun, it has a very pronounced recoil impulse. But if you get it nice and tight in the shoulder, it's nothing really in terms of pain or anything like that. It's not going to beat you to death. It's just quite a bit more than what you're going to be used to with the 5.56. Very nice shooting gun. That recoil feels good. Every once in a while it's nice to shoot a gun that's got a little bit of kick to it. So let's take a look at some of the brass. You'll notice it's mangling the necks of the brass. So if you're a reloader for your SAPR precision rifle, you're going to have pretty dinged up necks, and I've seen some dings in the body itself, but it's still reloadable. Some people wouldn't want to reload that. It's still reloadable. We have only fired about maybe 150, 200 rounds out of the gun today. I haven't been counting, but when we were doing some shooting, we did have one malfunction with the gun, and this was the end result of that. It was a failure to feed, and yeah, so it choked once. All right, with some Federal 150 grain ball, I'm going to do some shooting at a man-sized target out there. It's a challenge target at 300 yards. You should be able to hear if I connect or not. There you go. Easy hits on a man-sized target out to 300 yards with just standard ball ammunition. Let's take the SG-751 apart. To do that, first we want to make sure that the weapon is empty. I'm going to drop the magazine out of the gun, set it aside. I can pull the bolt to the rear and see inside the chamber area. Now keep in mind, you can manually lock the bolt open by pulling it to the rear and pushing down on this bolt hold device. To release the bolt, I can push up on that device, or I can just simply grab the reciprocating charging handle, pull it rearward, and let it go. It will strip around from the magazine, and you can start shooting. You will need the bolt and carrier in the forward position to disassemble the gun. It has two pins, forward and aft. I can pinch the pin, which will release a locking mechanism, push it over, pull it out. It is a captive pin. Now the gun hinges open. You can go and clean the entire weapon by simply hinging the action open. You don't need to take it completely apart, but you have that option much like an AR. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the front pin. Pinch it and push. That captive pin will come across and the uppers and lowers will separate. It's interesting to note that internally here you have a pretty much standard Sig 550 fair trigger and fire control group. But it's also interesting to note that this is a machined aluminum receiver. On the earlier PE90s and SG-550s, that would have been a stamped steel sheet metal lower. So all the new guns are using this aluminum lower. It's very lightweight. To take the bolt and carrier out of the gun, I'm going to push down on this disassembly tab. It's just a spring-loaded tab that has serrations on it. Push down on that, pull the charging handle out. Once I do that, then the bolt and carrier will just drop right out the rear of the receiver. This is where we get into AK territory. To take the bolt out of the carrier, just push back, it'll rotate, take it to its disassembly, pull it out, and there's your bolt and carrier, obviously heavily influenced by the AK series of rifles. Set that aside. Now let's take the gas system apart and get that piston out. Up here, we have that 4-position gas setting. So we have two on one side. We have the regular and adverse setting. So right now this is in regular, put it to adverse. If I want to go over to 1.0, which is a suppressor setting, I have to push down on this little detent pin, and then that'll allow it to rotate over to its suppressor setting and to its gas shutoff setting, which then makes the gun manually operated. To take it apart, push in that little detent, rotate this to its takedown. It'll come right out. That's your little gas plug. And then inside you'll have your gas piston and recoil spring right there, just like the 550. To take the handguards off, the top handguard will not come off the gun because I have the scope. The bell is out over the top handguard, so I can't lift it off. But once you pull rearward on the lower and pull down, it'll pop right off, and that'll free the top handguard to come off the gun. Let's talk about the accuracy of the 751 SAPR rifle. It's meant to be a precision rifle, at least that's in the name. So how precise is it? Well, for our testing, we have a Primary Arms GLX 6-power to 24-power mil reticle scope on here. I use this scope on a number of different rifles to do testing, and I really enjoy the Primary Arms scopes. And this is a nice one in particular. It has locking turrets, a zero stop, all sorts of great stuff, including an illuminated reticle. So let's talk about the groups. Here's what we saw. Now we are shooting 3-shot groups, guys. Yes, I know 3-shot groups don't count technically and all that good stuff, but we're here during an ammo crunch and we have very limited access to match grade ammunition. So we're going to be shooting 3-shot groups until this ammo crisis kind of subsides. Also, the Hornady ammunition that we will be shooting out here for these groups, it was donated to us by a viewer. I'd like to thank them for sending the ammunition so we could do some testing with ammunition other than Federal Match. With that being said, let's start off up here with some Federal Match. This group measures 0.9 of an inch, 3-shot group, and that's with 168 grain Federal gold medal match. For our second group with the 168 grain Federal, we saw a 1.4 inch 3-shot group. Then we switched over to 175 grain Federal gold medal match, and the first group gave us 1.5 inches. The second group gave us 1.9 inches with the same 175 grain ammunition. Next 3 groups are fired with the Hornady ammunition. This top one here is 168 grain tap, and that gave us 3 shots of 0.9 of an inch. Over here we have a 2.1 inch 3-shot group, and we've seen this happen when shooting at 300-yard targets. We'll hit, and then we'll get an erroneous flyer. It'll just shoot off and miss the target. And that's kind of what we see here. 2 rounds touching, and then a 3rd shot completely wild. Again, 2 inches, 168 grain boat tail hollow point from Hornady. Over here, we have the 155 grain Hornady tap ammunition, which gave us a 3-shot group of 1.8 inches. So, is it a precision rifle? I guess that depends on your definition of a precision gun. Is it DMR accurate? Yes, it is. Is it a precision rifle like sub-minute? No, I don't think it is. And things I've read about it, it's not truly a sub-minute gun. Now, what's interesting to note is when we were shooting our SCAR 20 or Mark 20 video, we saw similar performance out of the SCAR with a variety of ammunition. But the minute I put an OSS can on it, a silencer, the gun settled down and became a sub-minute gun consistently. It does not shoot over 1 inch anymore with Federal Gold Medal Match 168 grain ammo. It usually hovers right around a half MOA. So maybe this gun would settle down with the suppressor. I don't know. You can put one on there, and again, it does have a suppressor setting. So there you go. You be the judge whether or not it's a precision rifle. So the Sig Sauer SG-751. SAPR. Is it a precision rifle? In my estimation, no, it's really not. It's just a reasonably accurate infantry rifle. And could it be used as a DMR? Absolutely. The accuracy is enough for that application, in my opinion. But it's not a true precision rifle. When I think of precision rifles, I think of sub-minute guns. And we're not seeing consistent sub-minute accuracy out of this rifle. Now, perhaps it would settle down or do better with the suppressors we've mentioned. I don't know. I won't find out. But overall, the gun is very fun to shoot, a little bit brisk on the recoil, but not unmanageable. And if you like the Sig 550, you're going to love the 751. If you enjoy this type of content, guys, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. You'll get early access to videos like this. I answer all private communications, and there's a link down below to become part of that Patreon family. Also, right here on YouTube, there's a little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Click that join button and consider supporting us right here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thank you for 13 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.